Hey guys, Kale here, and just wanted to stop by and tell you that my new worship album, my new praise and worship album, All Things Well, is out now. It came out April 1st, and it's available everywhere you get your music, whether you stream it on Spotify, Apple Music, or stuff that I've never heard of, like Deezer, whatever that is, and other cool places. It's on all of those platforms, YouTube Music as well. It's also on some old school places like iTunes and Amazon Music and Bandcamp as well. But don't pay for it. Just go stream it for free somewhere. And I just want you to listen to it, and hopefully it'll bless you. But I also wanted to do a little video to give you some background on these songs, because these songs are incredibly important to me. I'm a pastor and missionary, and I'm not a musician by trade, certainly, but I've been a musician really my whole life since I was a kid. And I've been playing worship music with my church since I was in middle school, and started, writing my own songs when I was a teenager, or started dabbling in writing my own worship songs. I was in bands, of course, throughout high school, and I've always been writing and playing music, and started dabbling in recording music in high school, and dabbling in recording music myself in a spare bedroom producer kind of a thing several years ago. And so these songs, it's not like I sat down in a month and wrote an album. I know a lot of professional musicians, especially in the let's just do in the praise and worship category. They'll spend a year writing an album, recording it, tracking it, having it mixed and produced and whatever. They don't do all of that stuff themselves, and they certainly don't even always write all their songs by themselves. But this album is incredibly important to me because there's 9 songs on the album. It's called All Things Well, and you can click the link below to find a web page that will have links to everywhere you can get the music at. You can certainly just go to your favorite music website and get it, or you can click on the link below and you can see all the tracks and a preview of them, and find a link to Spotify, Apple Music, and all of that. But the 9 songs that are on this album encompass like my entire adult life. I'm 31 years old, and so I've been writing music since I was a teenager. But some of the songs on here are worship songs that I wrote when I was 19 or 20 years old and leading worship in our college and young adult group. And I wrote it. I wrote the lyrics, and then me and my friend Nick Roth would write the music and arrangement. And so 3 of those songs are songs that we recorded as a demo EP 10 years ago, back in 2012. And so 3 of the songs, starting with the first track, Victory Song, is a re-release, or I re-recorded it myself here in Budapest in my spare bedroom. And so my wife does harmony vocals on it, which is pretty cool. And so Victory Song is a really important one to me because it's one of the first worship songs that I wrote over 10 years ago and have played with my friends. And so I re-recorded it, tried to give it a bit of a modern spin, but I think it still retains some of that influences that were obviously on me back in 2010, 11, 12, which would have been old Hillsong United live and stuff like that, some of the good live worship that was coming out back then. And so I think you can still feel some of those vibes. The second track is Psalm 118. And that track and the 4th track, Psalm 118 and But Should He Tarry, are both songs that it took me years to write. Songs that I had a chorus for that just sat in my song journal for years until I wrote verses for them. And eventually I wrote all the lyrics, wrote some music, and then my friend Nick Roth once again helped me arrange them. He's an engineer and a percussionist, so he's just a mathematical genius, and so he helps me write the time signatures and the arrangements of a lot of the songs that I come up with lyrics and melodies for. And so he helped me do that, and then in 2020 during COVID, he and I recorded just very simply acoustic versions of these songs, where he was on cajon and I was on acoustic guitar. And Psalm 118 was one of those that we did in 2020. And I re-recorded it here in my home studio in Budapest. This is my home studio, this bedroom. And And I used his original Cajon recordings, but then I re-recorded the guitar and vocals and added a bunch of other things and used some new mixing techniques that I've learned along the way. And same applies for the fourth track, but Should He Tarry, which is a song that isn't really important to me because it sat in, seriously, the chorus of that song came to me, I remember, in the shower. A lot of songs come to me like that. Came to me in the shower years ago. Brooke and I were first married. We were in our first apartment. So I mean, that's how long that chorus has been sitting in a prayer journal. And then it was really in 2019, 2020 when things started getting crazy in the world that I sat down and had the, I don't know, the wherewithal to write some verses and arrangement for that song. And so I think that song is very applicable to the times that we're living in. And so I recorded that with my friends, Nick Roth, once again on percussion, and my other friend, Marisa, well, it was Bartell, she's married, her name is Marisa Randolph, and she did the vocals on that. And so I re-recorded the song, all of my parts and adding new parts, but I kept Nick Roth's original percussion track and Marisa's original vocals as well, and added everything new around it. So that was pretty fun to do. The third track, kind of getting out of order here, is called All Things Well, and that's the title track of this album. And I actually wrote that song all from one verse. I was reading in my morning devotions in Mark chapter 7. At the end of Mark chapter 7, Jesus heals or casts some demons out of a lady's daughter, a Greek woman who asked that Jesus would heal her daughter, and he doesn't even go to her, but he heals her. And all the people round about, seeing the miracles of Jesus, their response is utter amazement. And the line that the Bible says is, "He hath done all things well." And that was something that just caught my eye, my ear, and I felt like there was a melody to it. And so I just wrote it down and kind of stuck it away for later. And then I really liked that idea that Jesus has done all things well, regardless of our circumstance, regardless of COVID, regardless of the world. Jesus has done all things well. And so I started sitting down and I wrote a chorus and was starting to write some verses and didn't find anything I like. And so I thought maybe I should go online and make sure somebody else hasn't already written a song called All Things Well first. And then I did that, and I actually found that there was an old hymn based on the same verse. I don't think it was called All Things Well. It was called like My Jesus Hath Done All Things Well or something like that, by a guy named Samuel Medley, like from the 1700s, super old. So it's in the public domain. And so I really liked the verses. I made sure nobody else had already done this, but when a song is over 100 years old like that in the public domain, a hymn, you can borrow words from it. So I didn't take I don't even know the melody of the song, what it's supposed to be, if you know, whatever. It's probably been used with multiple arrangements. But I adapted the verses from that, kind of pulled a Chris Tomlin a little bit, and meshed it together with my idea and my chorus, my refrain, if you will, and made that song All Things Well. And I really like it. And when I was writing it and arranging it, I kind of was using the influence of like Matt Redman's 10,000 Reasons, kind of like a modern day feeling hymn almost. And so I hope you guys enjoy that song. Track number 5 out of 9 is Lost in You, and that is also one of the first worship songs I wrote that was on the original 5-song EP that Nick Roth and I recorded back in 2012. I'm sure that EP exists online somewhere. You can probably find it. It was called the Jesus People Project. You can probably find it somewhere, I would imagine. But that was a really cool one. It was originally a girl-led song that I wrote, and it was kind of like a heavy keys-driven song. And so I kind of changed it to make it more of a finger-picking acoustic guitar, chill vibe song, and made it a guy-led song, and then had my wife duet it with me. So Brooke is on that song as well. Living Water, track number 6, is a cover of We the Kingdom's Holy Water. And the story behind that is I really always loved the song Holy Water. The words were catchy, the melody was catchy, and those guys do a really cool indie rock vibe that I really dig. But they're also quite charismatic in their doctrine, and I'm not. And their soteriology, like how someone is saved in that song, was just incorrect. And so I always felt bad singing it because, you know, it would say like, take me to the riverside, take me under, baptize, I need you. And it's talking about like salvation, like, you know, to get saved. And that's just, biblically, it's just not true. And so I never felt good singing that. I would always skip that. Eventually, I just changed the words, and unfortunately, that changes the title of the song from Holy Water but to something that I think is more doctrinal, and something certainly a Christian can't feel bad singing about: living water. Jesus likens to salvation to drinking of the living water. Woman at the well, John chapter 4. He that believes on me will have a fountain of living water springing forth from him. And so that was kind of the idea. So I only changed the words that I need to, and unfortunately the title. But then I kind of did my own style. And I really wanted that song to have kind of like a 70s or 80s rock vibe. I kind of had Leonard Skinner, oddly enough. There's probably people out there who hate me for even saying that. But I had like an 80s rock vibe in my head, like Sweet Home Alabama style. Actually, in the bridge, there's some like choir ahs that you would see or that you would hear in Leonard Skinner, like Sweet Home Alabama. And so kind of took some inspiration from We the Kingdom and Leonard Skinner there, and especially with the guitar, the electric guitar tones, and some like 80s synths even in there as well. That was fun. Track number 7 is Help My Unbelief. And that song I wrote... so that song is a heavy hitter. That one is a prayer. It's a piano song. It's like a piano ballad that I wrote, and I asked Trisha Van Sickle to duet it with me. I really kind of wanted it to have a intimate Casting Crowns kind of feel to it, and so I asked her to duet that song with me. But the words of that song came from, honestly, just going through tough times, coming to the field, leaving our family behind, and learning this a tough language during COVID when everything was locked down, and just spending a lot of time with the Lord in the mornings. And I found myself getting on my knees and praying to God every day, and starting with the same words. Like seriously, like the beginning words of that song are, "Father, I come to you this morning, and I thank you for your word." That literally like was my prayer every morning. I would sit down, and I would think like Psalm 13, like David, he would have all these things to get off his chest, and it wasn't until the end of the prayer that he got his mind wrapped around God's holiness and his goodness. And so I would sit down knowing all these things that I wanted to get off my chest, or complain to God about, or ask him, or to pray for, but I wanted to readjust my mind from the beginning. And so I would sit down and be like, "Father, I come to you this morning, and I thank you for your word. Thank you for your goodness. I thank you for your grace." And so that became like an over and over thing. And so that song literally stems from my prayer time with the Lord, probably over the first 6 months of arriving on the field during the pandemic. Hopefully that can mean something to you. I know everybody's been through a tough time. The reason I wanted Trisha to sing it with me, not only does she have a fantastic voice, but she's been through some really hard times in her life as well. And I thought she was the perfect person to sing it. So hopefully it can be your prayer if and when you're going through a storm in life. The second to last track, "Here Is My Heart," is actually, if I am correct, it's the first full worship song that I wrote myself that was arranged and played. That was the first song that me and Nick Roth sat down together. I'm like, I have words, I have a song, let's arrange it, let's figure it out. So that song is well over 10 years old. I wrote that before I was married to Brooke, so it's probably 12 or 13 years old, and it's the first one I wrote, and it means a lot to me. And I didn't change much of it from the first time that I wrote and recorded and arranged it with Nick Roth, but I tried to update it a little bit, but I didn't want to update it too much, so it still has a lot of that old 2009 Hillsong United vibe to it, and it means a lot to me. So it's not super complex, not super complicated, but I think the words mean a lot, and it's definitely a good song of praise to God in offering our hearts to Him. To use however he sees fit. And the last song was actually a song I was just messing around with and enjoyed. It's called Prayer, but it's just an instrumental song. There's no words to it. But when I study to write a sermon, when I study the Word of God, when I am praying, not always when I'm praying, but sometimes, and then when I'm reading in the morning, I like to block out the world around me and just put headphones in and listen to instrumental music. And there's lots of good atmospheric instrumental music and playlists on Spotify that I'll listen to, but I really like that kind of stuff. So I just grabbed my electric guitar and started playing around with some riffs, and just wanted to make my own atmospheric instrumental song that would be one that I would enjoy listening to while I'm praying or studying or reading or whatever. And Prayer, the last track on the album, is what came from it, and I like it. It starts out really slow and builds and ramps up eventually to the middle of the song where there's a nice drop and then like kind of a loud part, and then it tails back off again. And I think it's a good song you can study to, or even just if you're someone who likes to listen to music while you're praying that's instrumental and doesn't have words that distract you. I think that's a good track. I've listened to it several times already just when I'm reading in the mornings, and I like it. So there you go. The album's out now. Make sure you go stream it for free somewhere and see what you think. Let me know if you liked any of the songs. I forgot to mention that all the chord charts to every single one of these songs is available for free. I'll put the link down here in the description to go find the music as well as to download all the free chord charts. You don't need permission. Feel free to play them. Just don't steal them and say that you wrote them, because I did. But other than that, you have my permission to play them if you want. And let me know if they bless you in any way. At the very least, I hope they praise God, and I hope that some people can enjoy them. Thank you guys for watching this, and I'll see you next time. God bless.